Welcome to Succeeding at Work. I'm Brook Houchens, and joining me today is my co host, Alan Geiss. Alan, as always, it's great to have you here.
Thanks, Brook. It's great to be here.
Our expert today is Dr. Blair. Brett is an executive coach, author, speaker, and positive psychology practitioner who helps people navigate major career and life transitions with clarity, resilience, and purpose. He has a PhD in industrial and organizational psychology, an MBA, decades of corporate leadership experience, and he has done deep research on mid career transition and recovery after job loss. Brett, welcome.
Well, thank you, Brooke. I'm really glad to be here, although I'll admit it feels a little bit strange to be on this side of the interview.
Well, that's right, Brett, because today we get to put you in the hot seat.
That's right. Today's conversation focuses on a question many successful people eventually ask. Why do I feel stuck? Sometimes people feel stuck because something has happened to them. It could be a layoff, a reorganization, a personal loss, a health challenge, or an unexpected transition. Other times, nothing dramatic has happened. They've built a career, achieved goals, checked the boxes, and still something feels off.
And Brooke, I think that's what makes this topic so important. Being stuck doesn't always look like failure. Sometimes it looks like success from the outside. The person has a title, the income, the resume, the reputation, but internally they're asking, is this it? What now? Why don't I feel more fulfilled?
Exactly. So today, Brett is going to help us unpack why achievement doesn't always lead to fulfillment, how people can move from success to flourishing, and what someone can do when the path forward isn't so obvious. So, Brett, let's get started with the core question. Why do so many people who are successful eventually find themselves feeling stuck?
That's a good core question that we're starting there. I think one of the biggest reasons is that success and flourishing are not the same thing. Success is oftentimes external. It's that promotion or the compensation or the company or the house, your professional identity, the things that other people can see and applaud you for. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But, yeah, achievement matters, goals matter, but I think flourishing is a lot deeper. I think flourishing asks the person, am I becoming the person I want to become? Am I actually using my strengths? And do I have meaningful relationships? And do I have purpose? Do I have energy? And do I feel alive in the life that I'm living and that I'm building? And I know a lot of people, they spend decades pursuing a version of success that they inherited kind of maybe on autopilot rather than intentionally choosing it. They do what they think responsible people are supposed to do. Work hard, provide, lead, perform. They just keep on going. And then at some point, and oftentimes this shows up in midlife, that old scorecard stops working and they wake up and they realize, I've achieved many of the things that I thought would make me fulfilled, but I don't actually feel fulfilled. That doesn't mean that they failed. No, it just means that the questions changed.
So, Brett, being stuck doesn't necessarily mean that something is broken. It may mean that the person's using an outdated definition of success.
Yeah, Alan, I think you're exactly right. That's a really clean way to put it. A lot of people are not stuck because they lack discipline. They're stuck because they're still living by a definition of success that no longer fits who they're becoming.
That's so important. So the issue may not be laziness or a lack of ambition. It may be like a misalignment.
Yep, exactly. And misalignment, quite frankly, can be exhausting. You can be very capable and very productive and even very admired, but still be out of alignment.
So, what are the signs that someone is stuck, Brett? And especially if they still look successful from the outside?
I think there are several signs that I see a lot in the people I work with. Number one, it shows up as a loss of energy. The person can still do her work or his work. They can perform, but they're running on discipline instead of true desire. They're doing what needs to be done, but the work they're doing no longer gives anything back. Secondly, sometimes there's this low level, low grade resentment. They may resent the job they have. They may resent the organization they work for. They may resent the demands that are on them, the people around them. They might even resent the version of themselves that they feel they've got to keep on showing up and keep on performing. I think third, there's like a narrowing of imagination. When people get stuck, they can't see all the options that they've got. And they say things like, I don't know what else I would do. Or sometimes I hear, it's too late for me to change. Or I should just be grateful. And then fourth, there's what I call identity confusion. This is especially true after a major disruption, like a layoff or retirement or divorce or loss. People start asking themselves, who am I now if I'm no longer in that role? Who am I now if I'm not needed in that same old way? And who am I now if that chapter I was living is over? And then I think finally there's a feeling of just going through the motions, just on that treadmill. Person is active, but they're not fully alive.
That phrase, active but not fully alive, that's strong.
No, that's what it feels like for a lot of people. A lot of people. They're not falling apart. They're not in a crisis. They're functioning, but deep down inside, they know they're not flourishing.
So, Brett, I can imagine that could be hard for people to admit, especially when they look on paper and their life looks pretty darn good.
Yeah. No, Alan, you're right. It's very hard. Very, very hard. And that's one of the reasons people stay stuck longer than they need to. They get to the point they judge themselves for feeling stuck. And they think, I have no right to feel this way. People all around me have it harder than I do. But that kind of self-judgment, it doesn't create clarity. It just creates shame. And I think a better move, instead of feeling shame, is to get curious. Instead of saying, what's wrong with me? Say to yourself, what is this stuck feeling trying to tell me?
Well, one of the topics we wanted to cover is the difference between resilience and endurance. I know you know a lot about this, Brett. A lot of, high achieving people are like us, are really good at enduring, but is that the same thing as resilience?
No, it is not. I can relate to this because I've lived this change, but no, there's a big distinction. The endurance, and we all have it, the endurance is the ability to keep on going, keep on keeping on, do the work. And sometimes we need that. Life is hard, life is unfair, and life requires endurance. Work, we've all had work that requires endurance, and leadership for sure requires endurance. But endurance by itself can really actually become dangerous. Why? Because it can turn into just tolerating a life that is slowly, little by little, draining you. Now, resilience is different. Resilience is not just bouncing back. I don't like that phrase, actually, because after some transitions, you don't bounce back to who you were. No, you become someone different. Real resilience is the capacity to recover, to adapt, to learn, and then move forward with greater wisdom. So I think endurance says, hey, I can take it. But resilience says, I can learn from this. I can recover from it, and I can build from it. And I think that's a really different posture.
So if I got this right, then, Brett, endurance can keep someone stuck if they're proud of how much they can tolerate. Like, I can take this.
100%. Yes. And high performers are especially vulnerable to this. High performers often have a long history of being rewarded for being the one who can push through. They know how to grind. They know how to deliver. They know how to be reliable. But the skill that helped them succeed in one season may become the exact thing that keeps them trapped in the next season. And at some point, the mature question to ask is not, can I keep doing this? The better question is, should I keep doing this?
So instead of can I keep doing this, should I keep doing this? That's a very practical diagnostic question.
It is. It is. Because a lot of people can keep on going. That's not the issue. The issue is whether the path they're on is still producing life, still producing meaning and contribution and growth.
So let's make this practical. When someone like knows they're stuck, but they don't really know what's coming next, how do they begin to find clarity?
I think the first thing I would say is don't don't start by trying to force an answer. And people often try to do that. I would say instead of that, start by gathering better information. When when people are stuck, they oftentimes want a dramatic solution. Sometimes they think, well, I should quit that job or go start that new business or we should move to a new city or maybe I should just retire, go back to school. But I think that clarity comes better from taking time to have some reflection before you take action. So I work with a lot of people and I always encourage them to look at four different areas. First, look at your emotional state. Ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Sometimes it's boredom or anger. Sometimes the person's just tired. Some people are scared. Sometimes you're disappointed, a bit restless. Sometimes you're grieving. You're in a season of grief. But if you don't take the time to name the emotion and make it pretty accurately identified, you run the big risk of misreading the entire situation. I think the second area is identity. Ask yourself and be honest about it. Who am I now? Apart from my title, my role, the company I work for, the old chapter of my life. And and what parts of my life have I neglected over this past period of time? And what parts of me right now are ready to grow? I think a third area is to look at all of your relationships and the support you have and ask yourself, who do I know who's around me who can help me think more clearly? Who do I know who tells me the truth? And who do I know around me that gives me energy? And then conversely, who do I know that drains my energy? And then I think the fourth area is what I call forward energy, the momentum of moving forward. Where do I feel even a small amount of curiosity, a possibility, a pull to something bigger than myself? And, you don't need the whole plan laid out first. Sometimes you just need to go do that next honest little experiment.
So, Brett, hang on a sec. What do you mean by experiment?
I love that. Alan, what I mean is like pick a low risk action that you can take that will give you information. Go have that conversation. Go maybe take that course. Go volunteer in that area that you've been interested in. Maybe go shadow someone. Write the article and post it on LinkedIn. Build a prototype. I like this. Go talk to 5 people already doing what you're considering doing. The point is go try the work a little bit before you blow up your whole life to pursue the work. People often think clarity comes before movement, but that's not true. Sometimes clarity comes from the movement, not reckless movement, but intentional small experiments.
So instead of asking, like, what's my perfect next chapter, someone maybe would ask, like, what is one experiment I can run like in the next 30 days?
Yes, yes. That question is a much better question. That old perfect life question can absolutely paralyze people. But if you go do a 30-day experiment, that creates data.
So, Brett, another word I hear a lot on this topic is people say, well, you need to have purpose. Okay. But I think that can feel a bit abstract. When someone's stuck, how should they think about purpose in a practical way?
Now, Alan, I think you're right. I think this whole focus on purpose is a little bit not helpful. And the word purpose can become way too abstract. People sometimes treat it like there's one hidden sentence out there in the universe If they can just find it, aha, everything will make sense. I think purpose is more practical than that. I think purpose is when your gifts and your values and your experience and then the needs of other people begin to overlap. So I'd ask myself, what have I been through that could help someone else? We've all been through things that could help other people. What strengths do other people consistently come to me and rely on me for? Hey, what problems do I care enough about to stay with? And what kind of contribution gives me energy rather than just status? You see, purpose is not a lightning bolt. No, sometimes it shows up as a pattern. So look at what keeps showing up in your life. Look around. Look at the problems you keep caring about. Look at the people that you keep wanting to help. And look at the pain that you've survived that may now have usefulness for someone else.
That's good. Wow, that really connects with the idea of, leveraging, your existing skills and passions like into a whole new chapter.
Yes. And that's important because people often assume that reinvention means starting all over. And most of the time it doesn't. It just means recombining what you already have. The skills you already have, they're not wasted. Your experience is not wasted. Your relationships, they're not wasted. And even your hard seasons are not wasted if you're willing to learn from them and use them wisely. A new chapter in life is usually not a blank page. It's usually a new arrangement of old and new material.
So this seems, Brett, to be something that would be especially helpful for mid-career and later career professionals who may think, you know what, it's too late for me to do something different.
Yes. Yes, that belief is usually false. It may be too late to do some things. That's true. But it's not too late to do meaningful things. The question is not, can I become 25 again? No, the question is, what can I do with the wisdom, the skills, the relationship, and the experience that I have now?
Wow. So, like, one thing I think is important is that, sometimes the answer is not changing everything. I think a lot of people think that on this topic. Sometimes the answer is changing how you think about where you are. So, how does someone know whether they need like a new direction or a new perspective?
Hey, Brooke, that's a critical question. When people feel stuck, they often assume the answer must be some kind of external change, maybe a new job, go work for a new company, go pursue a new career, move to a new location. And sometimes that is absolutely right. There are seasons where you need to leave, and staying where you were would be dishonest. But sometimes the issue is not the situation you're in. No, sometimes the issue is the story you're telling yourself about the situation. So I would ask a few questions. Number one, have I fully engaged where I am right now? Or have I quietly checked out? Be honest on that. Number two, have I had the honest conversations I need to have? Number three, have I asked for what I need? Maybe I need help. And number four, have I looked for ways to use my unique strengths more intentionally here where I am? Number five, have I somehow confused boredom with misalignment? Have I somehow confused fatigue with failure? And one more, if I choose to bring more courage and more creativity and more ownership to my current situation, could it change anything? If the answer is yes, then the next step may not be leaving. It may be re-engaging differently. But if you've done all that work, you've had the conversations, you've clarified your values, you've explored different options, and the situation you're in still requires you to betray too much of yourself, then it may be time to move.
So what I took away from that, Brett, is don't run too quickly towards change, but don't stay dishonestly.
Yeah, that's the point. It's a subtle difference, but that's exactly it. Don't run impulsively, but don't stay passively.
So, let's move to practical application. If someone is listening to this podcast and they're thinking, "Oh my goodness, this is me. I feel stuck." What should that person like do tomorrow?
I think I'd give them 3 simple steps. First, write down the truth without editing it. Go somewhere and take 20 minutes and answer this question. Write it down. Where in my life or in my work do I feel most stuck? And what am I tired of pretending is okay? Where do I feel most stuck? And what am I tired of pretending is okay? That one question will cut through a lot of noise. Number 2, I would say try to identify the real category that's the problem. Is it about energy? Is it about identity? Maybe relationships? Is it about purpose? Is it about skill fit? Your values? Maybe you're burnt out. Maybe fear is holding you back. Or maybe you're in a chapter of grief. Or maybe just plain boredom. But being able to identify the category, that really matters because the wrong diagnosis could lead to the wrong solution. And then third, I would say take one small action. We kind of mentioned this earlier. Take one small action that'll create data, create information, not a big fantasy action, but something small and something real. For example, schedule the conversation. Go talk to someone and ask for feedback. Take a look at your calendar and rework it. Make it a better calendar. Maybe explore a role you've been thinking about. Maybe reconnect to that person that you've been wanting to reconnect with for a long time. Maybe go start the project. Talk to a coach. Do something. Just do something small and practical that'll make the situation a little clearer.
So, Brett, my goal tomorrow then is not to try to solve my whole life's problems. It's really is to stop avoiding that signal of stuck.
Yep, that's it. That's the line. Stop avoiding the signal. I like the way you put that.
Well, Brett, I'd love to do just like a rapid fire round and just ask you quick questions and quick answers. You ready for that?
I don't know. Okay, I'm ready. Depends.
All right. Question 1. What's the biggest myth about feeling stuck?
What is the biggest myth about feeling stuck? I think it's that, and this happens a lot. Being stuck means you're failing. That's a myth. What it means is you're invited to pay attention to what's going on.
All right, here's one, Brett. What's the biggest mistake people make when they feel stuck?
Biggest mistake people make when they feel stuck. I think it's 2 things. Either on one hand, they ignore it for way too long and just keep putting it off. Or on the other hand, they make a dramatic move before they've done the reflection.
Okay. So, what is one question everyone should ask themselves?
I think everyone should ask themselves, what is this season of life I'm in trying to teach me that my old definition of success cannot answer?
All right. What's one action someone should take this week?
I love this one. It's simple. Go have one honest conversation with someone you know who will tell you the truth, and somebody will help you think more clearly.
All right. So, break it down for us. What is the difference between success and flourishing?
Good question. I think success is often about what you achieve in life, and flourishing is more about who you are becoming on that path of achieving.
Brett, what should someone remember if they are in an unwanted transition?
What should they remember if they're in an unwanted transition? They should remember that the chapter they're in may have changed, but their story is not over.
That's so good. Wow. This has been such a helpful conversation. I definitely have things I've taken away. I'm sure Alan has as well, and our listeners. I think probably for me, the biggest takeaway is that being stuck is not a permanent condition. It's often just kind of a signal that something needs attention, something needs alignment, something needs to change.
That's good, Brett. The other one I would add is I truly appreciate the distinction that you helped us with between endurance and resilience because I'm a little hard headed sometimes. And I think I'm a tough guy. I can do this. And I probably should have thrown the towel in about a week before. I know folks are just like me. I can, you can, I'm a tough guy. I can tolerate a lot, but tolerating something is not the same as flourishing. So
Yeah, that's so good. Well, whether someone is facing a career transition, a leadership challenge, a personal disruption, or simply the quiet realization that, that old definition of success just no longer fits, the invitation is the same. Slow down, tell the truth, ask better questions, and just take the next honest step.
Yeah, I think that is exactly right. And I would add just this: if you feel stuck, don't immediately shame yourself and don't immediately blow up your life. Get curious. Get curious and listen to the signals that are showing up and pay attention to what life is trying to tell you. And then take one courageous, small, practical step toward clarity.
Excellent. Thank you, Brett. This is going to help a lot of people.
Well, thank you both. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
and to our viewers, if this conversation resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and follow Converge as we continue to help leaders, teams, and organizations thrive.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Brett. You can learn more about Converge, our work with leaders, teams, and organizations, and the practical ways we help people and organizations get unstuck at convergeworks.com. Thank you so much for watching.